Hello and welcome to another in our series of conversations. And today I am with the absolutely delightful Helen Pinnock. Pinnock?
Yes, yeah, that's fine.
Yeah,
Yes.
I said that right. As I said
Yeah,
that.
no, get it right. And we don't want the other version.
I hadn't even thought of that. I just thought, oh my goodness, have I got the name right? So, Helen, thank you very much for your time. Why don't you tell me about Helen?
Okay, so obviously name's Helen, and it's funny when you said my name. Quite often when I'm saying it to other people, I always end up spelling it out. So you're all right.
Let me just tell you a real quickie about my name. So I'm Sarah Short, and when I write it, when I sign my name, it's kind of SHO. O and the R are together, and then a T. And somebody once rang me up and said, "Can I speak to Mrs. Shat?"
Oh no! Oh, that's worse.
I know. I know. I was like,
Anyway.
past tense.
Okay, well, we digress. We haven't even started yet, so I know this.
Go. Tell me about Helen.
Okay, so I'm obviously Helen. I'm from the Wellbeing Business School. I am author of this book, From Client to Clinic Owner: How to Create Your Wellbeing Business from the Inside Out. I also created the digital Wellbeing Business course because I kind of almost reluctant to use the word passion quite a lot because I think it like passion and authenticity are a little bit overrated. However,
heart-centered. That's
well, absolutely. But that, I mean, you know, really look online and you'll find all those words because that's, you know, I work with, as the title says, I work with well-being people. So everything from holistic therapists through to acupuncturists, conscious leaders, all of the above. So we love a bit of that. We love a bit of those kind of words. And as you can see, I talk with my hands, and I do actually get very excited and very passionate about teaching and supporting people to, in my industry, to create businesses that they actually love. Because what tends to happen is that we all get very excited. I started off as a reflexologist many years ago, 20 odd years ago. Well, it's more than that now, 20 few years ago. And we all get very passionate about what we do. But then when it comes to running the business, we kind of go, oh, I can't do marketing, or I hate the idea of marketing. And actually, I'm really, really passionate about bringing those things together. So that actually, for me, certainly, my business journey over the last 25 years has really been a personal discovery. It's been all about personal journey, discovery, and, you know, and the enjoyment along with that. So I think it's really about bringing those two things together and realizing that it's one, and it's not one or the other, and that actually you can really love it. I was in my group last night talking, I was interviewing somebody about PR, heartfelt PR. And actually she really said, and something that I totally believe, it really is just about, we can take, you know, when you take it all, strip it all back, it's really just about sharing. Yeah. Sharing about what you believe in the right way to the right people for you. And I think that's the thing.
What's really interesting, Helen, is that you are doing for well-being, the well-being industry, what the coaching revolution does for coaches, which is, you know, the coaches have all got the delivery side of their business sorted. Their skills are great. What they haven't got is everything else.
Yes.
And that's exactly what I do. And this whole idea that there's something about sales and marketing that isn't authentic, or that isn't heart-centered, or that isn't, you know, that's distasteful somehow. I find it really hard to believe this still comes from the Del Boy trotters and the second-hand car dealers and the timeshare salespeople.
Shiny suit.
Yeah, completely. And you think, come on, how are young women in their 30s, young men in their 30s, still hanging on to this stuff that was happening before they were born? You know, we've moved so far from that kind of clunky, unpleasant, pushy, foot in the door kind of behaviour. Why does...
I think a lot of it, personally, I think a lot of it comes down to fear. I think it's kind of like it almost, I always hesitate to use the word excuse, but it's almost an excuse for kind of not actually embracing, because as we know, when it comes to coaching or putting yourself out there, it's just that you're putting yourself out there, and that really takes a little bit of courage. And I think I think that's when that sort of almost excuse comes in, that actually, oh, well, I can't do that because it's somehow a little bit slimy. And obviously, as you said, we know that people don't buy these days. Then our customers, our clients are more savvy. They buy from people they like and trust and love. So like you say, I think I have to say, we're gonna have to mention this year, I think, obviously what's going on in the world at the moment, and the media and our politicians, there is definitely a very sense that we are being hoodwinked. So I'm guessing we're going to have to deal with that as coaches a little bit more in our industry, because people do feel a bit hoodwinked at the moment.
Yeah.
We won't go down that route, because I know that's, we don't want to go there, but I think it's true. I think there is obviously still that residue idea that people feel that they're being sold to, I guess, rather than
what's interesting is that this is going to end up being a different conversation than the one I thought we were going to have, because we've gone down this, and obviously kindred spirits on the marketing front. But so this business about heart-centered selling, in my opinion, if you're being heart-centered, you're looking 180 degrees in the wrong direction. Because what you should be doing, it's not your heart that comes into the equation, it's the heart of your client. It's not about you, it's about what you can do for your client. And it's about, clients buy outcomes. They don't buy processes, they buy outcomes. And they buy them from people they know, like, and trust, like you said. And
I think, sorry.
No, go ahead.
I think I kind of agree with you to some extent there, but particularly, I'm going to speak directly from my industry.
Absolutely.
So I think in terms of how I come at it, is I do think it is like heart-centered, but I think we really 9 times out of 10 in my industry that you're actually going to attract the clients that are very similar to you as because people have got into the industry, whether you are let's take me for example. When I first started, I was a reflexologist. I was very, very interested in fertility. That was my thing. So at that time, I was very much attracting people who were like me, who were looking for the same outcomes, as you said. Obviously, I think that can change. Now, my kids are 20 and they're not my kids, so 20 and 17. So I'm not so interested in those things. And my sort of heart process, I guess, has changed. So we're coming at it from the same basis. So I think I think for a lot of well-being people is that it's kind of like the only way they can envisage it, I think, really. I'm massively generalizing here, but I think it's just I think it's just the same thing, but perhaps just a slightly different way of coming at it.
Yeah, okay. I'm happy. In fact, I love to be debated with. I'm not just happy to be, I positively enjoy it.
I think it's just very interesting. I know that I have I was reading somewhere the other day that we should sell people or give people what they want, not necessarily what they need. Now, I sat there looking at it going, I'm not sure I entirely agree with that.
Well, I have a different view on that.
I'd be really interested to hear.
Well, I think that we have to sell them what they want, but wrap up what they need within that, so that what they buy is the outcome they're looking for. And what people aren't interested in is process.
Yes.
You don't buy a process, you buy the outcome. Now, that's as a consumer from the get-go. But you become interested in the process. If it's reflexology, for example, you become really interested in the process. But that's not what you're not buying somebody twiddling with your feet for those sessions. You're buying the fertility, you're buying the baby.
Absolutely.
Obviously, I'm massively generalizing there, but you're buying the baby. So if what I want is to become pregnant and what I need is this course of reflexology, then you sell me the baby and you wrap the reflexology course up in that product. So we can't sell people what they need, because it's patronizing.
Absolutely.
So you can only sell them what they want, but then you have to wrap the need within it.
Yes, absolutely. I think you're right, because I think I just back to kind of how I got started in this sort of the Wellbeing Business School got started. Actually, even though I didn't start the school till 7 or 8 years ago, my actual journey to get here started from my very first experience of complementary therapy, which was homeopathy. And actually what I wanted was to get pregnant at that point. I also have PCOS, so I was completely polycystic ovary syndrome. So what I was, so you did a quizzical look there, so I realised what I was talking about. I'll just give you a few letters, work it out.
Yeah, I'm not that fast.
So I kind of, you know, at that, there was no internet sort of when I wanted these things to occur. And so I was pretty desperate. I was being let down by the NHS, the doctors. They just didn't know, female health, didn't clue what they were talking about. So I had read, bizarrely, in one of those strange magazines that you get at the doctor's surgery that you don't read anywhere else in your entire life. And I think,
know where they come from.
I think it was Victoria Beckham, weirdly enough, that she actually had PCOS and was using homeopathy to help her. So I thought, oh, great, try that. I hadn't got a clue what it was. So I booked the appointment and I rocked up. And when I tell this story, depending on how I feel, I really kind of go for it. But it was literally a cold winter's night, and it was above a chemist's. The electricity was out. It was freezing. So I sort of sat there thinking, okay, I'm going to be attacked. What are you doing here? You know, and I kind of was like, oh. And she sort of started asking me all these weird questions. And I was like, you know, I mean, I don't know if you know anything about homeopathy, but they ask sort of, homeopath. Now, obviously, I know, but they'll ask you about your childhood, relationships, all these things. And I'm like, what on earth has this got to do with me? Pregnant, but okay, went with it. And she kept saying, well, you're not giving me enough, you're not giving me enough. And I'm like, you know, so I kind of walked away from that appointment going, okay, I'll just try what she says. And, you know, and actually, like most things, I realized there was some truth in it and it worked for me, and the rest is history. However, when I first opened my own sort of multidisciplinary clinic, that really was what held in my sort of consciousness, really, is that she had taken massive assumptions that I knew what she was talking about.
Absolutely.
I mean, you know, looking back, I mean, maybe I was her first client. I have no idea, but you know,
absolutely. But
yeah,
it was weird.
But it was weird. You know, she kind of. I mean, to be fair, it wasn't an unreasonable assumption. This was up in Lancaster, 25 years ago, when it was like, actually, complementary therapy, what on earth are you talking about? So it wasn't unreasonable.
I'm going to have to just stop you there. I until I moved to Italy a fortnight ago, I lived in just outside of Lancaster.
Whereabouts?
In Beetham, just over the border into Cumbria, just north of Carnforth.
Well, we actually lived in Carnforth, funnily enough.
Well, I was like 6 miles from Carnforth.
Okay.
2 weeks ago.
Oh, we don't live there anymore. We're literally in Nottingham now. But how strange.
How odd. Anyway.
Yeah, absolutely. Big small world and all that.
Isn't it just? Yeah. Anyway, go.
You know what I'm talking about when you say like 25 years ago, if you'd sort of said holistic health, you're like, what are you on about?
Yeah.
So it wasn't unreasonable. She would have assumed. I could totally understand how she could assume that I knew what she was talking about. But I didn't. So that kind of, even that, there's a reason why I'm still telling this story, is that actually, it's so important, as in many other industries, that we don't make assumptions about our clients, that we actually really, hold them in the space and all of that above. And that obviously applies to coaching, it applies to wellbeing and any other industry. So I think it's just, I've completely gone off a tangent here. I forgot where we started with this. But, I think it's just so important to, I know what we were talking about, to that, selling them what they need, but also what they want around it. And that bit around it is, so I was getting what I needed, but she completely missed the bit around it. And it would have been so easy. I mean, I'm not like that part. I was really quite desperate. So I would have pretty much tried anything, to be fair. If she'd said stand on your head and waggle your toes, it'll work, I would have done it. But, it would have been so easy for me to have walked away and go, well, that's a load of rubbish, never going back there again. But something in my heart did know that this was perhaps where I was supposed to be.
Worth a go, yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. But I mean, she could have easily lost me and then lost other clients because she hadn't wrapped around it, really. Yeah. So yeah, I guess that's...
Yeah, I small homeopathy story here. I only have one, and it was quite a good one. My children are not dissimilar in age to yours. My eldest daughter's 24, my youngest daughter's 19. And when my eldest daughter was 2, and I lived in Staveley, so up between Windermere and Kendal, she had repeated ear infections, and she'd had 2 or 3 lots of antibiotics, and now they're going, right, she needs surgery. And I was really anxious about it. She was my first child, and she was only 2, and I was like, people die under general anaesthetics, all of that stuff that you do when you're being neurotic with your oldest child.
Yes.
And I walked down to the chemist with an old guy called John Woods, who's a chemist in Staveley, and said, there's got to be something else I can try. And he said, have you tried homeopathy? And I said, no. And he said, well, you know, we've got a homeopath up in Kempney. It's got to be worth a go. So I took my 2-year-old. She was very verbal. She was able to hold a conversation because she didn't walk till she was 2. And they do something, don't they? If they don't walk, they talk.
Yes, absolutely.
So she was able to talk to this woman about her sore ear, which was the woman found quite surprising. And she gave me this stuff and she said, oh, give her this and do that and that. Anyway, I have to tell you, I was skeptical, to put it mildly. So I dropped these things, you know, don't touch them, all that business, dropped them in her bottle because she was still having a bottle at night. And she became very, very poorly overnight, raging temperature, vomited everywhere, her eardrum perforated, and she never had another ear infection ever again.
Yeah.
And she'd had them repeatedly for the whole of her life. And I was like, well, there's no placebo effect with a 2-year-old, is there? She hasn't got a clue.
Exactly.
You know, I was just really taken aback, and I suppose that was the first time I'd tried anything alternative, and the start of my kind of, okay, there's more to this than meets the eye, and obviously ending up in coaching ultimately. So it's come a long way since then.
Yes, no, absolutely.
There were a bunch of weirdos, weren't they? Let's face it. Alternative therapists were a bunch of weirdos that hung around above shop.
I'm not going to say they're a bunch of weirdos. but I think it really did come down to, I mean, it also comes out when I opened my own clinic. I opened it in a very sort of affluent area of Nottingham. And at the time, back in the day, my intention was very much to open it up for people to come and try something who perhaps wanted to try, but were a bit scared of that image of people being a bit hippie, a bit strange, a bit, you know, so when it came to, I would never have had something like crystals or Reiki back in the day 20 years ago, because I think people would have gone, whatever, I've not come in there, it's a bit weird. Yeah, very woo-woo. But the reality is, roll on, I've actually my clinic's actually just closed and I've concentrated fully on this now. But for 16 years, and then as I was closed 16 years, went back last 5 years back, we had Reiki, didn't actually have crystals, but we had other things that were actually what you would consider to be very woo-woo there. And because the world's changed and moved on, as it will want to do. Absolutely. But it's just very interesting. And I think, although people are much more open, you know, when I look at new therapy clinics that are opening now, again, they've moved on again, and the design has moved on again, and they're much more open, even more open, and which I love. You know, that's exactly what we want to happen. Yeah. So yeah, it's just really interesting, I think.
I also think that in your kind of wellness industry, as opposed to my coaching industry, the fact that it's becoming more mainstream. You know, people go, oh, coaching's a growing industry, and well-being is a growing industry, but there is still resistance. But especially with well-being, it's becoming more mainstream, and doctors are saying, you know, I've got a friend who's somatic, he does somatic healing, and he treats local GPs in Kendal, and then they send their patients to him in droves. You know, the ones that are no hopers, in inverted commas, are in pain and nothing's working. And you know, the guy's a miracle worker. In fact, I refer to him as one of my gods. I have a few gods that dotted around the place. He's one of them. I've
got a couple of those people.
Yeah, I know, they're great, aren't they? Great to know.
Yes, no, absolutely. And I think, you know, obviously, because the wellbeing industry is growing, which is amazing, you know, I found it very important now to concentrate on, I mean, it's not just, you know, I've moved on to that because obviously my children are older and I want more freedom and I want a new challenge as well, because I did that. You know, I started off as a therapist, then I had a multidisciplinary clinic and worked a different model to everybody else, and now the school is where it's at for me, because as we've talked about, my journey has changed and moved, and I'm ready to move on to a different thing. But actually it all comes back to the why, as it does with everything comes back to your why, and the why's really stayed the same all the way along the line, although there's been variations around it. So you know, the school is very much, because our industry is growing, I think it's very important for me to really concentrate on the coaching side of it, and to really, you know, keep people moving. And, you know, I've just got a new program called Build Up, Don't Give Up, because our industry has taken a massive battering over this year. I mean, I know lots of other industries have, but ours, you know, has taken a massive battering. And I think because a lot of people are obviously, that I really encourage, but the world needs more well-being actually than ever, to be perfectly honest. So, I feel it's really important that we do build up and not give up. But obviously, you need the support to do that.
I'm sitting here smiling because we are cut from the same cloth. I'm forever saying the world needs more coaching. The world has never needed coaching like it needs now. In fact, probably the last time the world needed coaching as much as it does now is 1930s.
Yes.
For the same reasons.
Yeah, and I think it's really a case of us taking more responsibility, to learn to be more self-aware, emotional intelligence and confidence, all of those things. So which obviously, coaching helps you to do that. So it's about bringing out what's already in you. It's just bringing it out, isn't it? Bringing it out into the world in a way that your clients can hear and that you feel happy doing. That's
I have a book too called Coaching Business in a Book. And the phrase that I use is that you have to become visible to the people that you can help. Decide who you're going to help and then make yourself visible to them. You don't need to be visible to the whole world. You don't need to get frightened about becoming visible, because you don't have to be visible to everybody. You just have to be visible to the group of people that you want to work with. And providing they can see you and you're speaking their language, then that's enough.
Absolutely. And I think you're completely right. And I think the trouble is that, I certainly did this back in the day, is that if you try to speak to everybody, of course, you become white noise, and actually you become very vanilla and not seen, and actually the converse, the opposite effect. Because it's that thing, isn't it, that we have so many more mediums these days to put ourselves out there, social particularly being one of them, which in my opinion is great if it's used properly. Absolutely. But if I think back to the day when my clinic started with my marketing budget for a very tiny place was nearly £3,000-4,000 a year. I spent £1,000 in Yellow Pages. Well, now my marketing budget is pretty much zero, but actually I work far harder in some respects to make myself visible, and hard is the wrong word. I just have to be more considered, because that used to be just a case of sticking an advert in and there you go. And now you have to actually really show yourself. It's free, but you have to be, you have to be who you are, and as you've just said, talk to the right people, isn't it? So
I talk to the right people and in their language. We have this thing that
that's why I'm very woo-ish. Well, I am very woo-ish, so
we have a way of talking to each other that we can get very excited about. We want to talk woo-woo, we want to talk coaching process and therapy and detail on the how. And of course, our clients don't want to hear that yet. They're happy to hear it once they're in process, once they are our clients. But what they need to hear is, this is what it can do for you. This is the outcome you will get if you work with me, in their own language. The phrase that I think probably sums it up is, as a therapist, wellbeing person or a coach, you have to join the conversation that's already going on in your client's head. The conversation, because people come to us because something's wrong. They don't come to us because everything's right.
Yes.
Sometimes they stay to keep everything right, but they come to us because they have a problem, and it's identifying that problem and then joining in the conversation that's going on in their head in their own language.
Yeah, it's the gap of where they are now, where they want to be, and actually, demonstrating that actually, if obviously it's the right client for us, that we can help them to get them from that, fill that gap of where they want to be. And I think that's I think personally, I always attract the people that I can help anyway. And if I find I have a client that comes towards me that's really not for me, then I will say it, as I'm sure we all do, but I will say, this, and I will point them in the direction of somebody else, because actually, if we're not right, we're not going to see the results. And that's not what we're here for. That's not what coaches are here for. We're here to really work with the right people and to get them the right results, because, and actually, let's face it, that's where the job satisfaction is, isn't it? We my yoga teachers, my meditation teachers, they love their work. I love my work as well, and we all want to be working with the right people. And I think that's that's the joy of the job. I mean, that's why you do this.
The about being self-employed is that you don't have to work with dickheads anymore. You only work with the ones that you like, which is
absolutely
perfect. I was in a social media thread, to slightly digress. There's a social media thread in a group and it had something like 600 comments on it. And the question that had been asked is, what made you start your own business in the first place? And I kind of reflected on that for a bit and thought, 600 people on there, I wanted to serve the world. And I thought, actually, I'm just a really, really bad employee.
Well, I certainly would be now, that's for sure.
Well, I just had to work for somebody else because I have opinions with a capital O, and that doesn't necessarily go down well as an employee. So therefore, you might as well just work for yourself. But, all joking aside, it's that you get to work with the people that every now and again you get one in that you don't like very much. But on the whole, you get to work with people who make your heart sing.
Absolutely, which is fantastic. I mean, that's the whole point, isn't it, of walking your own journey.
Absolutely.
That's the whole point, is that that's why we do it, because I mean, obviously any form of business, especially when you first start out, is not necessarily the easiest, and even when you go, wow, there's depths and what have you. I wouldn't, I've throughout my whole working career, I've had a couple of big crises in there, really, but I wouldn't change it for the world. I'm very much a mindset of a positivity mindset, and deal with the stuff when it comes up and feel the emotions. And there you go, there's the word bit. Feel all the emotions, but then actually I want to be moving forward. I want to be, I want that creativity. And obviously you have to deal with the negative emotions to be able to open up the creativity again. But, I'm always, I probably could work for somebody else, but I don't want to. That's the point. For me, it's about doing this kind of thing and setting my own path.
And I think the crises that you're talking about, that's where we learn, isn't it? That's where people like you and me, who help other people do exactly what we help them do, we can go, no, don't do that, because I did it. And it was a catastrophe, and you don't want to. And we can, obviously, you can't stop people making mistakes, but you can stop them making the mistakes that you've made.
And that's right. You're 100%. I mean, obviously, sorry, I'm interrupting. Sorry. I think it's we can show them. I mean, obviously, it's up to people, isn't it? But we can show them that actually we did this and it didn't work, but actually you can do this and see. That's what. Between the formal learning and the experience, that's what makes a good coach. I think somewhere in between those two things. So I think it's really important to be able to share that with people, and hopefully then they won't make the same mistakes as you said. I mean, we're all going to make mistakes. I mean, otherwise that would be, that's just not how the way our lives work, is it? No. But I think that's why people employ people like us, so that they can learn from our experiences and learn all sorts of different things, and we can share how and looking. And I think it's that thing, isn't it, of looking at having, whether it's your own business or whether it's somebody else's business, being able to have somebody objectively look at your business, because when you're in it, you can't always see. I mean, I employ a coach for myself. I always have done over the years, and I think it doesn't really make any difference where you're at. There's always somebody who is further ahead than you.
Of course.
And it's really important. We need that, don't we? We need that in our lives. So I think that's,
it's exciting. So how do people work with you?
Okay, so there's a number of ways. I have what you call the pocket product, so the book, and also I'm setting up this, like I said, Build Up Not Give Up program that should be out very soon.
And how does that, is that one-to-one?
It's going to be, so it's about 90% done. So it's going to be a series of 3 group sessions I haven't quite decided on what they're going to be yet, but it's a series of 3 group sessions. And then it's going to be 3 individual sessions at half an hour each. Mm-hmm. So you get all of that wrapped into one. And it's really to sort of get people moving again, get them motivated, and actually with strategic along there. Mm-hmm. And then I have the Wellbeing Business course, which basically is a digital course. And it is very much it'll take you through everything you need to know about, you know, how to run a business, from everything from mindset through to the practicality of creating content, all of the above. So it does everything really. And then one-to-ones, which I do, you know, and I love all of it. Gotta be honest. So, yeah, the one-to-ones I really love.
There is something wonderful about watching your clients succeed. And for me, and I appreciate this isn't an interview with me, this is me interviewing with you, but I suspect we've got a bit of synergy here. I can't coach the whole world. I tried, I can't do it.
Gosh,
So
wow.
and my contribution to getting the whole world coached is to help other people find clients who can pay them a professional rate so that they can afford to coach. Yeah. And so it's like ripples within a pond, isn't it? You know, absolutely. I can't change the world on my own, but I can create a revolution.
Your little corner of it, you can, absolutely.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I get the strong sense that we sing from the same hymn sheet.
Oh, absolutely. I think, you know, it's important. I'm on a mission for my area, my little bit of the world, if you like, and those people that I know I resonate with, and vice versa. And, you know, that's what I'm on a mission to do, because I just feel it's really important. Like you say, there's never been a better time for coaching, for people to receive it. And there's never been a better time for people to receive wellbeing in whatever guise that is. You know, whether it's exercise, whether it's body work or group work or nutrition, whatever that is, you know, there's never been a bigger need for it. Or certainly not in my lifetime anyway. Yeah. So I think now is the time, but we need to be, although, you know, conversely, although we're saying there's never been a bigger need, there's also never been a bigger need to get it right so that people can hear you.
Yes.
Because we're actually so massively overwhelmed and with fear and what's going on in the world, that actually it becomes really difficult to hear. And I think so. I think it's about, so it's never been more important that we get it right as well, so that we can crack that fear.
There's a cracking statistic that I discovered in my research for my book that says that as people in the Western world with access to social media, we see more than 3,000 marketing messages a day.
Wow, I can totally believe it when you say it.
Which is why the laser focus stuff is the only stuff we see.
Yeah.
You can't see 3,000. You can't even do anything else if you sat reading 3,000 marketing messages a day. So we just disregard the stuff that isn't concerned with us. We literally don't even see it. Our brains don't acknowledge it at all. They only pick up on things that are directly related to us, that are in we have an area of our brain called reticular activating system, and what that does is filter out things that we're interested in, which is why when you buy a new car or a new dress or something, you suddenly see it all over the place.
Yes.
Your brain's gone, oh, I'm interested in that, and all of a sudden it's everywhere, and you think, but that's what our brains do. And so the more focused that your marketing is, and the more directed it at exactly the kind of person that you want to hear you, they can hear you, because you get through the white noise of the 3,000 marketing messages. I'm talking everywhere: radio, television, cyclocrossers, billboards, digital billboards now.
Yes.
And
I can totally believe that, and you're 100% right. And it is that thing, when you are interested in something, you then see it absolutely everywhere. And I think it's just one thing, just to kind of it's so important. I think this is where as for people who are being coached, certainly in the wellbeing industry, it can become so overwhelming. Like that kind of knowledge almost can become really overwhelming. And who is my ideal client and what have you. So I think, although I have all the tools that I have available that people can purchase to help them with that, I say when they're in that real sense of overwhelm, I say, right, go on, stand in front of a mirror, look at that person that's looking in that mirror back at you. The odds are, certainly in our industry, your ideal client is going to be a lot like you, and probably looking for help with similar problems to you. And I think that certainly, because particularly wellbeing people can be very overwhelmed with the idea of all of this, I think it's a really good place to get out of the overwhelm.
Yeah.
And then that really
also, it's the younger version of you, isn't it? It's the version of you that discovered the thing that you're now qualified to do.
Yes.
What was going on in your life at that time that made you look for the thing that you've obviously fell in love with and now trained to deliver.
Yes, exactly. And I think that's obviously from that analogy I can go lots of different places, but I think it's just a really lovely place to start, because people kind of go, oh yeah, rather than actually looking out for all of these things that they can potentially help with. Because when it comes to homeopathy or wellbeing, actually in theory you can help everybody through everything.
Of course, same with coaching, you can help.
Yes, absolutely. So the reality is that obviously we need to hone that down and find what's right for you, or the individual that we're
absolutely, the business owner.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
We've been talking for half an hour, Helen.
Oh, there you go. I can natter about this subject forever.
Me too. It's been absolutely fantastic to talk to you. Thank you so much for your time, and it's really very nice to find a kindred spirit.
Yes, absolutely. I can get very excited about all of these things. So it's been an absolute pleasure.
Yeah, lovely to talk to you, and I hope to see you again soon.
Yes, take care. Bye.